With the second pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Mitchell Trubisky, quarterback for Carolina.
Hello. Mitchell Trubisky is going to Chicago.
Is it okay to be speechless in the second pick of the draft up here on the desk?
Well, I guess that does speak words and volumes.
Wow.
But what makes you speechless about it?
Well, to me, I just thought with Glennon coming in there, I thought they would give him a shot to kind of see if he could do this thing. But I had people tell me that Glennon contract, when you really study it, can be a 1 year and they can escape from it. So I don't think there's a big financial commitment there.
Yeah. I was a little shocked on that one, Buck, when that one came down there with Trubisky.
DJ, I would say that I was shocked too. And look, I love Mitch Trubisky because he's a Tar Heel. But I can also say that in going back there was a lot of surprise when Mitchell got the attention that he was receiving in the middle of his final year. There were people that were like, hey, man, what's up with all the attention that he's receiving? He hasn't really played a long time. And we actually thought he was going to be a guy that was going to be a 2-year starter because he was going to come back for his final season and do that stuff. But he kind of rode the wave. I think what's interesting about the Mitchell Trubisky deal, and the one thing that I will never understand, Mitchell Trubisky and Deshaun Watson played in the same conference, in the same league. Mm-hmm. Deshaun Watson dominated that league.
Yeah.
Dominated it. Mitchell Trubisky never had a signature game that was on par with Deshaun Watson's game. He never had moments. He inherited a team that was 10-3 and went 8-5 when he was a starting quarterback. And I'm not saying that all that is tied to the quarterback, but he hadn't played a lot. And so when I went and I saw him, and I remember watching him, I think I watched him play against NC State or whatever. He's a rhythm thrower. He has some stuff. I thought at his best he would be kind of an Alex Smith-like player. Good, solid, right system, right support thing or whatever. I didn't view him as a generational dude, like a guy that, hey, he just put him in any situation and he could revolutionize or reverse the fortunes of the franchise. And so it's a tough one. And when you're a franchise like the Bears and you make the decision, and when you make the mistake on the quarterback, and if you don't admit the mistake, man, it just proves to be problematic. And I think for Mitchell, it's not really fair to him, but he is always compared to Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson because those guys have gone on to do great things, and he hasn't. And I just think it creates a level of pressure within the organization for the quarterback, the general manager, and the coach that sometimes can be overwhelming.
All right, I want to do a little exercise here because this is why we got into this, because one of the thoughts on Trubisky was the 1-year deal, right? So it was a limited number of snaps. So let's go back through the last 4. Trubisky had 572 pass attempts. So we're not talking snaps, we're talking pass attempts. 572. Watson had 1207. And Mahomes had 1349. So more than double there. So, okay, so that's part of the theory as well. He just, you're better off taking somebody who's thrown the ball a lot more in college. But it's interesting as you go back through these other years. Let's go through 2018. If we look at guys that threw it under 700 attempts, right? Josh Allen is the one, 649. Not that much different than Trubisky, only 649 attempts. Josh Allen's been a hit, based with what's going on with him. But you had Darnold, who had 846, which is not a ton, and that's so far hasn't worked out great. Baker had 1,026, which is I think he shouldn't have been the first pick, but he's okay, solid player, but he had over 1,000 attempts. Lamar Jackson 1,086, obviously a big hit there, and then Rosen had 1,170, so Rosen had a lot over 1,000, didn't work out. So a little bit of a mixed bag there. I would say. Let's go through the ones who we would say a no. We'd say obviously a yes on Watson and Mahomes. Trubisky's a no right now. We would put, I think, for where they are, I think you probably have to put the no on Darnold for the time being. Yeah. And I think you put the no on Rosen for the time being.
Yeah.
So those are the no's, and I think Baker's not going anywhere. He's gonna be a functional starter. He is who he is. 2019. Murray 519. Wow, he had less than fewer throws than Trubisky. Haskins 590, so almost identical. And we could put I guess for the time being, we'll put the arrow down on Haskins. Daniel Jones, 1275. Drew Lock, 1553. So it's interesting, right? It's kind of a mixed bag.
It's a very mixed bag. Here's what I will say about the guys who have the fewer pass attempts. You can take a guy who doesn't have a lot of pass attempts if he has a superpower when it comes to his athleticism.
Yeah.
I think with Kyler Murray, his athleticism and the other stuff has enabled him to maybe skip some steps when it comes to that. Josh Allen's, I would say maybe underrated superpower. I don't think we really viewed him as the dual threat that he's become, but he's leaned into that. And that has allowed him to kind of play through some of the mistakes or some of the issues. Because he still, once or twice every game, he still makes a poor decision. He still has a ball that should be intercepted. He still is a bit of a roller coaster ride at quarterback. But his athleticism saves him. And then his arm talent is ridiculous. So he can make some things. I think, and looking back at Mitchell, he never leaned into his athleticism, or the Bears didn't encourage him to lean into him. He came to North Carolina as a dual threat quarterback, and he has never really played like that fully in Chicago. He's never really done the zone read stuff, the sweep stuff, the stuff that we're seeing Taysom Hill and Josh Allen and those guys do. He's never really embraced that part of it. Now, I don't know if that was a Trubisky decision or Bears decision, but he didn't lean into something that could have allowed him to overcome some of the issues that he might have had as a passer.